Strong Dads wants to thank Quality Auto Mart for joining us as a sponsor. Quality Auto Mart was born in 1985. They are owned and operated by Mark and Nancy Repke. Quality Auto Mart provides all the services, repairs, and maintenance for your vehicle's needs with a 3-year auto parts and labor warranty. They offer complimentary vehicle safety inspection and estimates. Also, they offer a shuttle service, and the 4th oil change is always on them. They are located at 7307 on State Road 46 in Batesville, Indiana. Make sure you give them a call at 812-934-2301. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another show here with Merle. Merle, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Kids are on fall break. We're driving each other crazy. It's all good.
I like it. You know, walk in and see your son here, and then I was like, man, what's going on here? And you told me they got fall break. Must be nice. Must be nice to have a fall break. I want a fall break.
Yeah, he's sleeping in and he's eating Doritos in his bed, and he comes out. This is just so typical teenage boy. He comes out. And he scares me first off. I'm getting ready to make coffee, and he comes up behind me and grabs me. So I almost drop him to the floor. And then he starts laughing, and I'm looking at him, and he's got this like red sort of junk all over his teeth. I'm like, dude, what's all over your teeth? What? There's nothing. What? I'm like, no, like you got junk all over your teeth. You just came out of bed. Like, I was eating some Doritos in bed. I'm like, oh my gosh! I know that breaks a rule somewhere around here.
One of those things we set here.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Welcome to fatherhood.
Well, that's good. I'm dealing with a kid too. I got to deal with the the emotional needs of a little girl at school and getting emails from the teacher, and it's just not good, Merle.
So she's a smart kid. She's finding out that if she can go to the nurse or go to the quiet room, what is it? The calming
corner.
The calming corner, that she can get out of work. Like, that's a smart kid.
Merle, I about lost it.
I'm feeling anxious today. Oh, why don't you go over me and sit in the calming corner?
I have no words.
Hey, our oldest did that, and it was funny. Finally, I'm like, he's been to the nurse every day for 2 weeks straight. We get a phone call from the nurse like, is everything okay with him? And I'm like, he's been what? He's been going to the nurse? I'm like, son, you're done. Yeah. You're done going to the nurse. Well, she happened to be very attractive and sweet and nice. And I'm like,
the best thing is like we're sitting at the dinner table and like, Mia, how was your day? And and we could tell something was off yesterday at the dinner. Like, we knew something. So like, I was like, what'd you do in the morning? When I first dropped you off, you walk in, what'd you do? So I had her run down the whole day. She didn't exactly tell me she got to sit in the common corner and go to the nurse's office, though. Like, what the flip? She's so much more like me.
I know. Yeah.
I just wasn't smart enough to figure.
She's a little smarter than you.
I didn't figure all that stuff out in school. I didn't know I could do that. Get out of school and schoolwork.
That's too funny. Hey, well, hopefully you're enjoying at least or relating to some of the stories about being a strong dad here and just what we run into. But it's all good. It's part of what we do.
Yep.
So we do want to jump into a serious topic today because we are in our 4-part series.
Yep.
And last week we started, and remember what we talked about?
Yeah, we're talking about the 4 ways that Satan kind of grabs a hold of you and can use you. And last week we talked about him grabbing a hold of your physical needs.
Yeah, I feel like crap, right?
Yeah.
I feel sick. I'm not, those kind of things. It takes my energy down, depression, anxiety, all those things. This week we're going to talk about money.
Oh boy, don't turn us off.
No, and it's interesting because we're actually going to go a slightly different route on the money.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not just going to be just the love of money and all those things, but we're actually better really figure out what we're doing in terms of the psychology and what money does, and so we're going to tackle that a little bit. So let me start with some thank yous. Let me do the first ad. You kind of messed that one up really bad last week.
Screwed the pooch last week.
All right, Strong Dad wants to thank Quality Auto Mart for coming alongside of the Strong Dad podcast, and so we thank those guys for being supporters and contributors to the work that we do here. So for all of your auto needs, whether you are fixing a car up or wanting to even buy a golf cart, man, he's got incredible selection of golf carts out there. And go out and see Mark and Nancy Repke at Quality Auto Mart, located outside of Batesville, Indiana.
Good deal. Also, Strong Dads, we would love to thank the Casey's Outdoor Solutions coming alongside of us. Man, I drove past their facility the other day, and they have just an incredible facility. Go check them out. All your landscaping needs. They got home decor stuff going on. Obviously, we're in, we can't say we're at the beginning of the fall season anymore. We're in it. We're in the fall season. So they have some awesome outdoor stuff going on, whether it comes from the mums or any other plant needs. So check them out. Let them know we sent you up there. Really do appreciate them.
All right. Very good. Okay. So let's get into our money topic today.
All right.
So are you rich? Yeah. You got enough money?
I have enough.
You have enough?
I have enough, but I don't have a lot of it. I just have what I need. I'm all right with that.
I feel like I live at just enough. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like just enough. And again, Linda and I both work. We both make, I don't know, a decent salary. So, but we always live to that level. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we talking about the building of the deck projects and all that. So we're always like, okay, well, we get that project done, and then you got to save a little bit more money, and then it's the next project. Mm-hmm. And so, I've never felt like we have this endless amount, this mountain of money where I can just tap into it anytime and do anything I want anytime like that. So that's not the case at all. But obviously we have what we need. Yeah.
Merle, what's the cliche when it comes to money, that, money can't buy happiness, right? And then there's even a song about this, but it can buy a boat,
It
right?
can buy a boat, yeah.
And I don't know, like sometimes I've subscribed to that it's like, man, although money can't buy me happiness, it can buy me a lake house, and it can buy me a beach house, right? And those things would be a lot of fun, and that would be a lot, So sometimes I subscribe to that because I think there is some weight to that, right? I think there is something to be said about that. But I also, again, as we're going to talk about in the show, it's at what point does this idea of thinking that money actually can buy that happiness, and that's all you're seeking after. So hopefully we'll get into that today.
Well, so I need you guys out there listening. I need you to really pay attention today. In fact, you might even want to get a paper and pencil just to write down some of the start of what we're going to get into as to why we get off track with money, or how Satan can use it, right? Yeah. Satan can use it to get us off track, and it actually has so much more to do with some of the things in our psychology and just emotional needs. So I'm going to talk about for a second here about what I call my essential 8, right? These are, if you think about necessities of life, okay? So physical necessities of life we've talked about before. These are food, water, shelter type things, right? Yep. And I have to have these to be physically surviving, right? And it doesn't really, it doesn't mean I have to have steak every night. I just have to have a certain level of calorie. Yep. Okay. Well, there are things I call the essential 8. These are the 8 emotional needs. Needs, not wants. These are emotional needs that if people don't get them, they will get in a very I always talk about, like in marriage, they're going to die on the vine, okay? In other words, they'll die out emotionally. Their heart will get hardened. They'll get coarse because they just feel like they're not living well in this area. So write these down, okay? These are the 8 emotional needs that every person has, and because I have a need for them, I'll do whatever I can to get them, all right? Control. Everybody has to have a level of control in their life. Respect. Everybody has to feel respect. And if you don't believe that, just be disrespected for a while and you'll know exactly what I mean. Everybody has to be loved or cared for, right? Everyone has to feel like, well, someone's in my corner. Someone's willing to help take care of me. Trust. The trust is the underpinning for all relationship stuff. Yeah. Whether it's at your workplace, in your marriage, with your kids, trust is the underpinning for all of that. Security. I mean, I have to be able to, if I'm living as a scared rat backed in the corner every day, it's no way to live. It's exhausting. And so I have to be able to go, hey, at least now, that's why I always refer to my home as my house of peace. Like this is my security place, okay? Affection. So this is Affection can be as simple as being in somebody's space, like, hey, we're just home together, driving in the car together. It could be holding hands. It could be physical intimacy. But in other words, how you actually are interacting with another person, okay? Purpose, every person has to be somehow serving a level of purpose that meets their need, okay? And when people are out of purpose, they get really like, what am I doing here? Okay. So we don't last long there. And the last one here is faith. Everybody has to have a level of faith. Now, even goes for whether you're a Christian or whether you're an atheist. Everyone has a level of faith. The difference becomes, well, what do you have faith in? All right. Even the atheist has to have a level of faith, but his might be in himself. I believe in myself. I believe I can get myself through all things. I believe in my government. My government will pull me through. Okay. I believe in my country, whatever. But the quality of faith always depends on the ultimate source of faith provision, where it comes from. Okay. And if I'm just having faith in myself, I will disappoint.
Yeah.
And so if I have faith in the government, it will disappoint.
Right.
And so that's why we talk about, well, I need faith in the ultimate. Like, what would be the thing that would never disappoint?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's where God comes into that picture.
Yep.
So anyway, those are their 8 essential needs.
Okay.
And when I think about those, control and respect and love, trust, security, affection, purpose, and faith, when I think about those, they're not all equal.
Okay.
Okay. So you could have, Kyle, a high level of need for control. Okay. Like maybe you want to make sure you know what the family's doing, what's going on at work. Like I don't like surprises. I got to make sure I'm in tune with everything that's going on. Okay. I could be like, yeah, I don't care. Just call me when you need me. Right. I can go with the flow.
Sure.
And men in the home tend to be less controlling than women, especially if there's kids, because the women feel the need, like, I got to make sure that the schedules are together, the kids got clothes, everybody's going to school. Right. And us guys are like, oh, the kids are at school today? Right. So it just depends on what area you're talking about. But the idea here is you got to know what your level of need is in a particular area. So we talk about like food calories, right? You need 2,000 calories. I need 3,000 calories. Well, which one's right? Well, it's different for each person.
Right.
Okay. But I have to understand how I'm wired. Now, let's go back to the control. If I'm a person that really needs to be in control, I need to be in control. Otherwise, I feel anxious. I don't like my place. I will try to get that any way I can. And this is where money comes in. Okay. This is where, so think about all these emotional needs. And when one of these emotional needs is not being met well, this is where I can look for the shortcut. And money is the shortcut.
Yep.
Okay. Money is a shortcut. So this is what I really want to drive home today. Like, all right. So how could money be a shortcut in control? Okay. Well, one way is, and I've seen this happen before, I can go into a restaurant and I see this neat little table over by the window that overlooks the city. And I'm on a date with my lady. And I'm like, the table they're getting ready to take me to we might as well be in a closet.
Right.
I'm going to slip out $100 bill here and say, hey, dude, here.
Yeah, hook us up with that table.
Hook us up on that table over there.
Yeah.
I just used my money to control the situation. Okay? And so we see, that's just an example. You see that all the time.
Yeah.
Money buys votes in elections. Money buys things in the corporate world all the time. Okay? And so I'm trying to control in that situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And as you're talking, Merle, I started thinking, to me, last week when we were talking about the physical, Satan kind of attacking your physical, abilities. one of the things we talked about at the beginning of the show was talking about this idea of spiritual warfare. And how Satan, it is real. It is a real thing, whether you believe in the Satan guy, whether you believe in this Jesus guy, regardless of whatever you want to call it, bad luck, karma, whatever you want to call it, spiritual warfare is a real thing. And I think when it comes to this idea of money, I think Satan knows this idea, that those essential 8 that you were talking about. Man, I can't tell you the number of times, myself included, where guys we get into this comparison game where we're like, well, they have a lot of control, and I kind of want that control.
Yeah.
Or, they have, the affection of some really, really pretty girl, or whatever the case may be. And I think Satan uses this idea, and then he also, knows your financial situations. He knows you can afford. So instead of, providing for your family, go ahead and just go buy that love that you think you can go buy. And I think Satan uses the spiritual warfare in a sense of making men compare themselves to one another. You have a real fancy truck. Well, Jim down the street, he has to have that fancy truck then. And then it just kind of snowballs in this thing where then we're using the money to really try and accomplish and try and buy things in our life that are not going to truly come back to the really fulfilling us. So I think the spiritual warfare is no different. Just like we were talking last week with the physical, it is still alive and real when it comes to money. I mean, there's so many verses all through Scripture that talk about how the love of money over other things, how it's never going to fulfill you. It's going to continue to destroy you. It's not that money is a bad thing, but it's just that when you make that money your quote unquote God, and you use it to try and buy, the security, the power, the control, your happiness, you think you can buy your love, your freedom, the respect that you think you deserve, that the money is what can get you all these things. Man, Satan throws these little. I kind of equated to like the chess piece, because Satan is not playing checkers here. He's playing the real deal. He's playing chess right here, and he knows the moves that he can make to make you think that money is going to be what you really need in order to get to whatever you think you need.
Yeah. I mean, and again, money is of great value to us. So let's not fudge that out like, oh, it's not important. No, it is. And that's why it's talked about so often in Scripture.
Yeah.
Because it's like food. It's a necessity. You have to have money in order to function, right? But when all of a sudden you are a glutton of food, you become a fat pig. And when you are a glutton of money, you become a filthy pig, okay? And so I have to understand, oh, man, what am I doing with this? How is Satan using this? Yeah. So here's some lies. These are the lies that us men and women, but us men buy into, that money equals security. And if you don't believe that, just look around. How many insurance policies do you have? All right. How many of you buy a gun to carry with you? How many of you pay money for security devices on your house? Yep. Right. And so if I can purchase that in some way, I can make myself feel more secure. How about this one here? This is one we see a lot in the example of the food or the dinner table. Money equals power and control. Man. And that is so true in so many different levels. This country, I think, tries to keep some of that level of corruption out. In other words, in our legal process, we have a due process where everyone is entitled to a representation under the law. But let's be honest. If I got a lot of money, I can buy a really great attorney.
Yep.
I can get influence into the court systems. And so money we use it to have power and control, all right, versus the homeless dude who, he's going to get a public defender and listen, good luck. Yeah.
Well, this idea of power control, Merle, in yours and Linda's office, that come in, what I mean, obviously not asking for names by any means, but what are some of the guys coming in? I mean, because I'd imagine this idea of power control, just knowing just what that feels like as a man, that I feel like I'm in control. Like I just think of just, just a broad example of a man who is becoming very successful in their workplace, and they know that they can continue to put forth a lot of effort there because they're going to gain a lot of control and a lot of, become a supervisor, and a lot of respect that comes along with that. But then they're negating the home life. I mean, is this something you're seeing a lot in the office?
So when it comes to control and money in the office from men, all right, so that's our perspective today. I will see men start to lord it over their wife or the kids. Okay. Well, I'm out busting my butt every day so that you can have this. Okay. So in other words, I make all this money so you can have this nice lifestyle that you have. And if it weren't for me doing this, then you wouldn't have what you have. Okay. Yeah. And so this is a type of thing like, listen, we are called to provide, but we also have to be really careful about, yes, we want to be respected and appreciated, but we don't hold it over as leverage to manipulate and blackmail. Okay, and so it's that fine line. Okay. I've had men before that have been guilty of really having a tight grip on the money and basically limiting to the point where it just gets really weird. Like, here's your $20 a week. Don't spend it all in one place, kind of thing. And if you behave, you'll get more. If you don't behave, and by the way, I'm the keeper of the definition of behaving. You know what I mean? So I've had that in my office, and for me, I'm just like, dude, get off of it right now. I mean, because that's you talk about sickness. That's a very insecure person. Who has to use his money to influence that way. Yep.
So as we keep going down, some of the lies that we buy into, and again, these are for sure coming directly from Satan. These are the lies that I think he keeps dangling over. Just what I was talking about at the beginning of the show, this idea that money buys happiness. And I'll be the first to admit, I subscribe to this sometimes. I'll be the first to admit, Satan knows the shiny little tools he can put in front of me, that if I just had this tool, man, I would be so happy because I could do XYZ projects, right? And he knows that. And because I am blessed and I do have some financial, stability, sure, I could go out and buy that tool for sure. But then what would that do? What, I mean, because anytime you buy something or you think you're buying that happiness, again, we talk all the time, something else has to suffer, right? There's going to be something else that's suffering. So if I think that tool is going to make me happy, then what is going to suffer that Jenny can't get? What so on and so forth. I mean, you could play the what if game, but this idea of the lies and again, I buy into this sometimes, that money buys happiness.
Yeah, you've got a whole tool shed full of beautiful tools, and you're still grumpy. Linda would say, I've got a whole garage full of bikes and I'm still grumpy, So again, like, we get all excited about that chase. Like, yeah, I'm going to buy this car, I'm going to buy this tool or whatever. And while we're dreaming about it, like we are, it's that dream is giving us those dopamine hits that are providing the happiness. It's an artificial happiness. And all of a sudden you get the tool or you get the new thing. And I mean, a day after you get it, you're like, oh, yeah, I got one of those. I got to go on to the next thing.
I feel like Satan, have you ever talked about something and all of a sudden you open up your phone and on Facebook there's an advertisement of that exact thing? This is totally Satan. I'm thinking about this tool in my mind and all of a sudden this advertisement shows up and I'm like, damn you, Satan, you did it.
There's no question that if you mention it out loud or on your phone that you'll get that. Now, I don't know about just thinking about that. Well, really freaks me out there, but... Yeah, but I know I've had that before. I'm talking about a dirt bike, and the next thing you know, I'm getting dirt bike ads all over. How about, money equals love? If you have more money, you'll get more love. We see that a lot. Money equals freedom, okay? I want to be careful here. We think that money gives us freedom, but we better understand what freedom is, okay? Money can provide greater opportunity for different things, okay? It can provide greater opportunity, but it in and of itself does not equal. And so as I wrote all of these, I put an equal sign in. And so they're not equal to, but they can provide opportunities to do things, okay? And so that's the thing that I just want to keep in mind. Like, it's not equal, but it does give me greater opportunity for it.
Yep. Yeah. So as we kind of keep moving down this idea of money equals respect, and that, how many times you heard this, that more is better, right? More money, the better, you can't have enough money, right? Just like you can't have too much fun. Like I can't have too much money. And this last one you wrote down, man, this is something else that I think as men, just generally speaking, I think men struggle with this because part of the idea of the control, I think that we feel like everything we've earned is ours, right?
Yeah.
We did this, that all the money that I've made is mine, right?
Yeah.
And I think, again, this is something I subscribe to sometimes. It's just like, you just go through these seasons in your life where I'm like, I'm working really hard right now. I'm working a lot of overtimes at work. Man, I earned this. I made this money. If I want that tool, I'm going to go buy it because I earned that money. It's my money, right? And I think a lot of ways and a lot of men, we subscribe to this sometimes, this idea that the money we make is ours.
Yeah, the money is ours. And so, and again, it sounds good, like I can justify it, but ultimately we have to go back to a greater source. Yeah. Where does the money come from? Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about how we actually walk through this, because I want to be clear, as I said before, money is not evil, and we are not trying to say we shouldn't be making money or any of those things. What we're trying to say is understanding how Satan can use that money for that opportunity based off of our selfishness, for our own desire to satisfy much deeper needs, right? And that's why you run into older people that finally go, I don't really care about, that, like I've had all the toys, I've had it all, I don't really care. And you're like, man, will I ever get there? Well, they've come to a different level of understanding how these emotional needs get met. And money came up short every time, okay? So in 1 Timothy 6:10, it says, and you referenced this before, it says, for the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pangs. So it says, for the love of money. So we desire it, all right? And it's not money in and of itself. Money's just the vehicle, it's the tool, but it's the love of it when I start living for it because I think it's going to satisfy these emotional needs in some way. That's when we get into trouble. Man,
I think maybe more than any other country, I think Americans, this one hits home. Because we are a country that not that we are built around money, but money is such a huge part of our society. Other countries that are very poor and don't have a lot of it, I'm not to say that they don't struggle with this, but I think, man, if there was ever a country that the love of the root, the root of all kinds of evil that comes from the love of that money, man, to me, this just speaks to an American's heart. Like, to me, again, we are blessed beyond belief. And because of those blessings that we get, because a lot of those blessings that we do have or we feel like we have are because of the financial stability that we have in this country, man, I think this plays right into that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the wealthiest countries in the world and still one of the countries with the highest levels of depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
And so we're starting to realize, when depression and anxiety are part of my signs, they are my indicators that emotional needs are not being met. And so the emotional needs are the essential 8 that we talked about before. And so how can I have all this money and still be scoring among the highest in nations with suicide rates, drug use, depression, anxiety? Something's not adding up. And so I have to understand Satan's in the background laughing his tail off and I'm falling for it. Okay. Yeah. So here's the deal. Money is a shortcut. We have to recognize that money is a shortcut, all right? And I need to know, okay, what's a better way then? And without us sounding all churchy, well, you just have to be happy.
Right. Yep.
Right? But I do have to find out, well, what's the long route or the better route, okay, versus the shortcut. And, in Scripture, I'll go to John 4:14 here because I probably have read this thousands of times, and I just read through it.
Sure.
But this is really what it's working on right here. John 4:14 says, "But whoever drinks of the water that I will give him will never be thirsty again. The water that I will give him will become in him a spring of water welling up to eternal life." This is so important for us to grasp this idea because there's never enough money, right? There's never enough money. You can't have too much, right? And so that whole idea that there's never enough money is this same idea here, is that you will never have your thirst quenched. You'll always be thirsty. You'll always be in the desert. Even if you get that one quick drink, you're going to go, man, where's my water bottle? I need it again. Okay? And so here we're getting the idea that Jesus is the ever-flowing spring of water.
Yeah.
Okay? Well, what does Jesus provide? So I need to figure this out, right? Like, well, what does he provide?
Yep, and I think this plays right into what we were talking about, that point that I was making about some of the lies that we buy into, that this idea that money is ours, right? Man, I'm sure anyone who's ever attended a church has heard stories before of someone says that they had to sacrifice something in order to pay for something else, and all of a sudden whatever, a check shows up from a refund from something of the exact amount, right? And I think, man, this just really is a perfect example of how, man, God will continue to provide. And again, not to get all churchy on everyone, but I do think there's something to be said about realizing that the money you have is not yours, that God is the ultimate provider. He's that spring that you were talking about. He's going to continue to provide for our needs. But I think in that, God wants us to play an active role. Because again, if we don't play that active role, if all we do is sit back and say, look at all the money I've made, look at all the things I've done, I believe all those lies that Satan continues to tell me, if we sit back and believe those things and we don't play an active role, then yes, that money may be there, and it might be a short-term thing. But I think that's when this idea that again, here in America, we are so blessed, but we also are dealing with so many mental health problems that are associated with trying to buy our happiness. And man, I think if you just go back to the root and just know that it's God that is the spring that is allowing you and providing you the funds that you do have, I think, man, when you come to terms with that and you actually start to believe that, I think that's when, again, Satan's always going to try and play those games. Yeah. But I think when you start to really believe that and actually use that in your day-to-day life, I think that's when you can kind of, start to begin to control the idea that you think money has more control over you.
Yeah. I mean, you start to get an understanding of it, and you start to manage the money rather than money managing you.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So we talked about like not getting all churchy, all right? But I want to try to get this right. I want to understand, like, okay, how have I been feeling thirsty all the time when it comes to money? And I've now tapped this to my 8 emotional needs that we talked about, and like I'm trying to fulfill these things. And so then we hear that, Jesus is the well, right? He's the eternal well. Well, then I better dig in a little bit deeper and figure out, how do I make this transition? How do I transition from money being my provider to Jesus being my provider? And this is where we really start to study the life of Jesus, right? And I'm not like, I really am challenging you strong dads out there to actually study the life of Christ, because he is working in God's nature and I'm working in my nature, my selfishness. And so I need to study, well, how did Christ live? And so, we've talked about this so many times before. One of the very first things we can do is learn to serve. I mean, that's one of the very first things. Like, I'm going to get up and I'm going to think about how I'm going to serve other people today. All right, whether it's serving my community at your work, whether it's serving my family, serving whoever it is, how can I serve? And I want to be the best servant for them, okay? Now, then I start to also realize my charitable heart. How am I giving? How am I giving? Christ was a giver, okay? So he was a servant and he was a giver. And when he starts to do these things, the practice is what creates the completion of our emotional needs. People start to respect you. You start to find joy in other people's joy. All right? You start to find security because you know that God provides all that you need. Okay? So you start to get a different vision versus when you are on the throne. Okay, so like an example that we have put at practical use in our home is man, let's just see if we can give uncomfortably. Our tithing.
Yeah.
When we first started tithing, that's been years ago, but when we first started, I was like, what the heck? This is way too much money. This is way too much money. We're writing a big old check, and I'm not saying that to brag. I'm telling you how weak I was.
Yeah.
Like, this is very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And over the years, it's gotten more comfortable because it's like, it's not our money. We're just a facilitator of it.
Yeah.
What are we going to do with it? The hands and feet of it. And so, hey, the money comes in, the money goes out.
Yep.
Now, if the money's coming in and it always goes out for my need,
Yeah.
all right, or for my want, I have new cars, I have all toys, okay, and then that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about giving as Christ would give.
Yep.
And watch what happens to your emotional calorie count.
Yeah.
You will start to fulfill, and you'll be like, I'm actually pretty good with where I'm at.
Yep. And I think part of this idea of tithing, this is 100% a control. I know this just from my own self. Like, man, are we really giving that much money? Are we really doing that? Because, not that they're anything remotely close, but sometimes I'm like, well, geez, well, taxes come out, then I have to tithe. My taxes are a lot of money. My tithing's a lot of money. So it's like, well, I earned this money, right? And I think that this is, again, how Satan is going to continue to move those pawn pieces around, because he knows that if he puts that thought in your mind that, man, you're tithing too much money, that's your money. You earn that, right? I think as he does that, that's where just naturally I think men want to have control. Man, I think you look at that like, that's my money. You're right. I'm going to take that back. I'm not going to be very charitable. I'm not going to tithe that much money because I earned that. The church didn't earn that. God didn't earn that. I did,
That's
right?
Fine.
And I think, again, this is those thoughts that go through. I know they go through my mind, and I'm sure you guys can relate to that. That's where we just have to realize, know that God is in control, that it is His to start with. He, again, just like you said, Merle, we are the facilitators of that, and realize that and actually believe that. Not just say it out loud, but actually to your core believe that. And it's a hard process to get over and to realize that we're here a short time. God has blessed us in more ways than we can ever understand. Why wouldn't we want to give back to Him?
Yeah. So give till it hurts, right? and I will say early on, it hurts easy, right? Yeah. You're like, oh my gosh, I just gave that guy $1. Oh, But the idea here is you starting to realize how actually you get provided for even more and better, especially at an emotional level. You just are a person who starts to connect so much better with relationships, with how you approach work, your physical health. All of these things start to come together.
Yep.
Matthew 6:24. All right, you've heard this before, but just think about what is actually being said here. Matthew 6:24 says, "No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money." If money is your provider for all your security needs, for all your emotional needs, you'll never have enough. If God, who is eternal, you will always have enough. Okay? And so who's on the throne, right? The challenge that I have for you guys this week is go through and rate yourself on your emotional needs. Go through the list that we had, okay? And see, well, where am I really desiring a high level here? Am I one of these guys who needs a lot of control? Am I one of these guys who feels like I have to be respected at a high level, that I have to have a lot of affection from people, whatever it is, all right? And then see how you may have plugged money into helping you lock that down or get it to a level that you want, all right?
Yep.
And so that's just the challenge this week. And then I just challenge you to back off of it.
Yep.
Back off, let some of it go, and see what God does.
I've said this before that I don't know who I ever heard this from, but there's two ways you can really see what a person's about. You can look at their bank account and you can look at their schedule. Man, if as you're starting to do this evaluation and you're not sure if you feel like money has control of you, look at your bank account, look at your bank statement, see where you're spending your money. Where's that money? Does that money play into some of these lies that Satan is continuing to play and continue to tell us? So I just think if you look at your bank account and you're seeing different things that play into this idea of control or trying to buy respect or trying to buy happiness, all these toys, man, I think that's what you're saying, Merle. Just taking that evaluation and maybe, again, God is so much bigger than this idea of trying to buy all these things. I just think, again, it's a very cliche and very easy to say that just allow him to take control over that. But man, start to make a conscious decision and make a statement in your life that you're going to allow God to be in control over money. Because once and again, this is a work in progress. This is not I made this statement and a stake in the ground and all is well. It's similar to, I'm going to follow Christ and my life is hunky dory then, because it's not, right? Satan knows that even as a follower of Christ, he can begin to kind of put that wedge between you and Christ with money.
Yeah, he doesn't quit working.
Right?
He doesn't quit working.
And neither does Jesus, though. Jesus is,
That's right.
he's always working. He's always trying to, build the relationship between you and him. And I just think, allowing you to make a conscious statement in your life saying that Jesus is over, he's over my money. Mm-hmm. I think when you begin to actually believe that and say that, I think that's when, getting back the control of allowing God to take that control is beneficial.
Yeah. So hopefully, guys, you found this to be helpful, not just having a money bashing conversation, but the understanding of why we gravitate towards the things we do. So again, go through those essential 8s, see where you are in that, see how money is playing into those, how you might use or abuse it, and understand that that's how Satan is working at you. So, man, let's get ready to sign everybody off here, right?
I like it.
I'll thank Quality Auto Mart, okay? I'll thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions again. We want to thank all you guys for listening. Please give us 5-star ratings, promote the show, share the show, reach out to us, man. You got a question, you got something, you can reach us at our rocksolidfamilies.org website, or you can call us at 812-576-7625.
Good deal. Hope you guys are having a good week. Go out there and be some strong dads.
I mean, but I really could use the new bike.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'd be so much faster.
I'm looking at these table saws right now.
Yeah. Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Casey's offers a wide selection of plants, landscaping materials, home and garden decor, and gifts for every occasion. Casey's is committed to providing exceptional service, a unique shopping experience, and value to every customer. Stop in and see what makes Casey's so unique. Located at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana, or call 812-537-3800. Let Casey's help you add beauty to your home.